Welcome to Stories with Soul. I am your host, Jamey Ice, musician turned entrepreneur and co-founder of 6th Ave Homes and 6th Ave Storytelling. Over the past 10 years, I have launched multiple successful businesses and have become obsessed with all things entrepreneurship and marketing. I've been on a personal quest to unpack what it takes to make and grow a great brand. One thing that I've discovered is that stories are powerful and that storytelling has the power to set a brand apart. Join me as I dive into the stories of the heavy-hitting leaders, entrepreneurs, artists, and business owners in our community to hear their biggest wins, greatest losses, and their best business secrets. There's a story behind every great brand. Welcome to Stories with Soul. Welcome to Stories with Soul. I am your host, Jamey Ice. I'm joined by my co-host, Jimmy Williams, and we have my dear friend, very special guest in the house, Kari Crowe Sehr, who is the ice cream guru here in town, the ice cream mogul. I would say you're kind of in mogul status.
I think so.
But she's the founder of Melt Ice Creams, which is really become an institution, I feel like, in Fort Worth. They now have 3 locations with 1 on the way, which we're going to hear about. They're in Whole Foods. Really
Change the ice cream game. Change the ice cream game in Fort Worth. For sure.
And also something that we're going to talk about here in a little bit is she is a ultra marathon runner. And what's it called again?
Ultrarunner.
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 Like, we're talking hundreds of miles, which blows my mind.
An ultramarathon is anything over 26.2.
So just marathons, but bigger.
Yeah.
So we're going to get into a little bit of that. Okay. Where I would like to start is, so we first met because you were a photographer before you were doing Melt, before you were the ice cream mogul. How does that term make you feel, ice cream mogul?
I don't like mogul. Yeah. No, we're still a really small business.
I know it's still small, but it feels big.
It does. Yeah, I guess. Yeah. I just don't like it. The idea of like mogul or empire.
Because you still feel like a you still operate
it's still a small group of like just really hardworking people.
Yeah, that's right.
But before you were whatever it is now, to me it feels like a big. It is. I think it's a big deal. So I'm just going to put that on you. We met through photography. You were a food photographer for primarily, and you were doing all sorts of stuff. But I met you as you were also the photographer for Fort Worth Foodie.
Yes.
And just what a crazy, your life looks drastically different today.
Wildly different.
So could you give us what was how did Melt come to be? Where did that come from?
Yeah. So what year was that? We opened Melt in 2014. So I was probably shooting food in 2010 to 2014, and really kind of begged to be on the staff of this new food magazine that was in town. But I had never really shot food before, and so they kind of took a risk on me. And
you begged to be on it because you just liked food?
I've always had an affinity towards not just food, but the moments that food creates. So hospitality. I never really had the words for it back then to put the context to that. But, and so I really wanted to try this avenue to food. And I had been photographing people for so long in weddings, and just felt like food would be a really interesting creative outlet, and something that didn't talk back to you. So it would be really interesting to learn how to work with it. And at Fort Worth Foodie, it was all people that were just crazy passionate about food and hospitality. And so I learned a lot. And then I got to pitch, some of my own stories, and really got to know different chefs and restaurateurs here in Fort Worth and learn kind of the underbelly, I guess, so to speak, of the food scene.
Like the negative side of it, or just
the behind the scenes parts of it that you wouldn't really I did a day in the life of Sarah Castillo's taco truck, and
before Taco Heads was
before she had a brick and mortar store, back when it was off of West 7, I think it was Pogue Mahone's. Is that what it was?
Behind that, yeah.
And I wanted to shoot kind of what her whole day looked like, and I got there super early in the morning, and a chef hadn't showed up, and she had I had to her truck got stuck, and like you just got to see kind of like every aspect of it. But then you got to see like the reward of like giving a food product to a customer and how their experience lit up, like how their day was changed by that. And the more that I shot food, the more I kind of fell in love with the industry of like not just the end product. I think a lot of people think it's incredibly dreamy to have a cafe or something, but they don't get to necessarily experience. And I definitely got not a full experience, but got to see some of that. And I fell in love with the hospitality world. And
so you saw that sort of underbelly, if you will, and
the business side and the nuts and bolts of a business behind the food.
A little bit. I think I just got like a glimpse enough of a glimpse not like, to make me afraid. Okay. Yeah, but that made me want to do this. And then, you know, like Mark and I my husband Mark and I love to travel. And so like every city we go to, we'd always look for number one, a pizza place, and number two, an ice cream shop, because I feel like every major city has like their pizza shop. Like you ask a local, you ask a bartender, like what's the best pizza in the city? And somebody has like a place they're like really loyal and passionate to.
They get excited.
People get excited. Yeah. And they want to tell you about those things. So I like, that's my favorite thing to do when I go to a city is like, where is the pizza? Where is the ice cream? Where's the local bar? Because they are gonna know, like they're gonna tell you where to go next. And I think a lot of a city is defined in their culture by some of those things. You learn a lot about a city by those things, by their food.
Because that's what makes a city special is like those local institutions.
Those experiences.
It's not the chains.
Yeah.
It's those things are what make.
Yeah.
When you go to New York.
Applebee's to like understand how the city feels.
That's like my favorite Office episode where he goes to New York and he's like, Sbarro.
That's right.
Anyway, so you were excited about that idea.
Yeah. And so we always talked about how like we didn't feel like there was a place here to have that experience for ice cream. And like Texas is so hot, you know, like, I mean, 9 months out of the year we're sweating. And so it was like, well, if something's not here, let's bring it to the people. Let's make it. And originally, like, we just thought, like, I'll start really small. I'll sell at markets and festivals. And, you know, the more I dug into
ice cream.
it.
Like, so you said, I want to do ice
cream.
We
need frozen ice cream. We need frozen, delicious treats.
Was there something about ice cream that, like, I mean, obviously, Texas hot, like, so logically, like, check. But is there something about ice cream, like you personally, that's just pizza ice cream? Like, could we have had melt pizza version, like if there was no pizza joint?
Melt could work as a pizza company too, because you melt the cheese.
Right, you melt the cheese. Yeah. We are fanatical about making pizza.
Okay, so we might have melt version pizza.
I don't know that there would ever be another restaurant, but pizza is my favorite food.
But we have, like, DFW has some good pizza joints.
Yeah.
But the hole in the market was
ice cream.
Nobody was doing that.
And to answer your question, like, it's a blank slate. Like, to
Brahms.
me, it's a blank canvas. You got Brahms.
You got what do we have that place off of Hewlin 30, the Marble Slab? Like, that's a chain.
Chains. They're all chains.
They're all chains. Yeah. So no ice cream, a local joint to define culture.
And I just love that, like, ice cream is this blank canvas. I mean, like, I studied art in college, and like it is this kind of canvas that you can paint on. Like, you take milk and cream, it's these simple ingredients, and you build crazy and wild, fun flavors with it, you know? And so it just felt like something really interesting to try and see how it worked. And there's some science behind it too, absolutely. But it just felt like this is what the community needed. And if I thought this, maybe my neighbors thought this. And I remember I was in Fairmount at somebody's home, and I was starting to tell people, like, hey, I'm thinking about this idea. And they were like, you can't just do events. You have to open a brick and mortar. Like, we want to bring our kids
there. Had you made any ice cream at this point yet?
I had a small home ice cream maker, and I had started making sorbets and ice cream.
So you were making it. It wasn't just an idea. You're like, I'm making a little bit.
Yes, but like small batches, like
a birthday party size.
Yeah. I would take it to my neighbors and say, "What do you think of this?" And that's where it started.
So crazy. So So what was that transition of like, okay, I'm making this, I'm trying out my neighbors, like giving it to my neighbors, giving it to my friends. They said, yes, you got to do this. You have to go brick and mortar. But then okay, I feel like that's just what separates the normal individual with the entrepreneur, and where there's that moment where the entrepreneur says, I'm doing it. And like, was there like a defining moment, or was there a defining season where this dream kind of like idea kind of started to say, okay, screw it, I'm all in?
Yes. So that was probably like winter, spring of 2013. And Mark was like, are you sure this is what you want to do? Like, let's be really sure. And I was like, well, why don't I go and visit ice cream shops? And so I made this solo trek across the South.
Oh, by yourself?
Mm-hmm.
Nuh-uh. I didn't realize. I think I've heard this part of your story, but I didn't realize you did it by yourself.
Yeah, he rented me a car because he didn't think my car was safe enough.
Okay.
But he had to work. He had a full-time job. He didn't just take off to taste ice cream all around the country. Somebody has got to do it.
Yeah.
And so I drove. I just like had this map of all these different places I was going to go, and I would kind of took my photojournalism skills, and if an employee was willing to talk to me or an owner was willing to talk to me, I would ask to talk to the owners, and I would just ask them, really basic questions like, what do you like about working in ice cream? What do you not like? What do you love? What do you think is hard? And surprisingly, like, people were very willing to talk. And the ice cream industry is kind of secretive, but like when you go or face to face, like
secretive, like people don't want to give.
They don't
away
want recipes or something.
Like, yeah, I guess like they don't want you to know how the butter's churned, for lack of a better way to say it.
Yeah, that makes sense.
But did people open up?
Yeah, I mean, I wasn't asking like technical questions. I was really asking,
show me your business model.
Yeah, it was just like, what. For me, it was like, can I see myself doing this long term? And so I wanted to know, like, what do you not like about working in an ice cream shop? What's the best part about it? Mm. And that's how I came up with the name Melt.
Do you remember where you were when you came up with the name?
I remember exactly where I was. I was in Birmingham, Alabama.
Great city. It's very similar to Fort Worth kind of vibes.
Yeah. They've got a few more little mountains than us. I'd love to have those trails here. But I was at this little ice cream shop, and the guy that was managing the place, he had come from the ad world. And I remember asking him that same question. What do you enjoy about working here? What's your favorite part? And he said, when somebody walks into these doors, he was like, you can read their body language. He said they have the weight of a mortgage on their shoulders, or maybe a family member in the hospital, or they just made a really horrible grade on a really important like college exam. And he was like, when you scoop them that ice cream and you hand it over the counter, you watch that weight just melt off of them, even if it's just for a moment. And with Melt, we really wanted to have this aspect of like, we're not just a local food business, but like we want to be intentional about how we give back to our community and how we serve our community and people around us. And when I heard that, I was like, I love that. Like, if we could melt people's problems away, even if it's just for like 5 minutes, then we can make an impact on our city. And so it was like, I came home and I was like, I want to do this, and I have a name. So
did you call Mark then? Were you like, I got the name?
Yeah.
That's awesome.
So for people that don't know you, I can speak to this just because we've known each other for a while, and I've seen you do what you do, but you don't do anything half-assed. Like, you're one of the most like just driven people I know. Like, if you go for something, it's kind of like with running, which we'll talk about here in a little bit. If you go, I'm going to run a freaking 100 miles. And so there was no, I'm assuming it's like if Kari says, I'm going to start an ice cream company, I'm like, I'm all in.
Yeah.
And that was would you say that was the case?
Yeah. Well, everything's on the table.
Yeah.
But you also were an entrepreneur before this because you had your own photography business.
Yeah.
So you have
a different level. I mean, it's just such a different level, though.
Yeah, because it's like now you have to like you're working on funding, you're working on finding a building, you're working on hiring employees, and then, geez, if you own a small business and you have just trying to figure out how to hire people in general, you've never done it before. It's like,
oh my gosh,
all of these little factors that
I
you
have
have
an
no
MBA
idea.
in mistakes.
Yeah, that's
just
right.
like
That's right.
and the cost is probably equivalent, you know.
Oh, easy.
But that's how you learn.
So yeah, I learned so much.
And that's one of the reasons I'm doing this podcast, because I feel like you either learn from mistakes or you learn from being in proximity to people who have gone before you, who have done it. And so one of the things I'm excited is for people to get to hear stories like yours and get to hear the lessons like what you have learned and share those, because it spares people some of the
heartache.
Yeah. The MBA of mistakes. Stories with Soul is brought to you by 6th Ave Storytelling, an organic marketing company building standout brands on the foundation of story. We help small businesses grow by crafting and sharing their stories, because when small business thrives, cities and communities prosper. You're obsessed with your business. We want to make the world obsessed with it too.
So what early on in the journey, right? I mean, so you made that decision. You came back from your road trip. You said, yes, let's do it 100%. You're going to now look at funding. You're kind of like, you're going to take on a bunch of debt. You're going to get a bunch of people working for you. Like earlier on, I mean, tell us some of those like mistakes, like wins where there's like big movements, like we call them tailwinds and headwinds, right? You're going to face some headwinds. You're going to have some tailwinds, like, you know, things that kind of propelled you forward, things that are like slammed in your face. Do you remember any of those? Have you blocked those out?
Yeah.
Like share some of that a little bit.
Well, first of all, I was like, I have to learn how to make ice cream commercially. Like,
that's a big thing.
It's a difference than like making it in your home kitchen.
Yeah.
And so I reached out to people in France and Canada and the United States, and like I was like, I just want like an internship, like let me come and work for free for, you know, a month, 2 months, like whatever you need.
You got an internship?
That's what I wanted. So I was like reaching out to all these people, asking if I could just learn from them. I don't know why I didn't just go to culinary school, but like nobody would let me learn from them because
they wouldn't let you enter.
They didn't want to like let you steal their stuff, right?
Yeah, like I'm saying, it's like super.
You were
secretive.
an intern reject.
I was totally an intern reject.
Wow.
But I found this ice cream forum. I don't think it even exists now. And on there was this couple, and like the girl was from Texas. And so I like looked them up on Instagram, I think, and like found their email address. And I was like, please, can I come learn from you? I'm also in Texas. I promise I won't. They were in Ohio. Promise I won't compete with you. Like, I just want to learn. And they didn't have a brick and mortar store at the time, but he was making ice cream and selling it at farmers markets in large quantities. And they said, well, let's like hop on a Zoom or a phone call. Like they wanted to make sure that I was like a normal human being. And so I talked to them for a while. They asked me what I was planning to do, and they let me come up. And
so you went to Ohio. Cool.
So I went to Cleveland, Ohio, and I stayed in a hostel. And
there's hostels in Cleveland, Ohio.
There's hostels in Cleveland, Ohio. It was next to a popcorn factory.
Okay, well that makes sense. Yeah, I guess.
So,
okay. Yeah.
And then I like kind of shadowed Jesse. His name is Jesse Mason. It's called Mason's Creamery.
Is it still around?
Oh yeah, it's so amazing. Wow. They're so talented.
What a cool kind of legacy that they got to help birth this thing as well.
They do just really incredible stuff. They now have a brick and mortar store, and like they do all kinds of really great things for their community.
So check the box. I now know how to make ice cream.
Now I know how to make ice cream. Come back. Need to write a business plan. Was working on a business plan. Like I said, I studied art in college, but like loved business, but I didn't know, besides reading a few books, really didn't know much about how to develop business. So Mark, who graduated with an economics degree, was like, here's my college textbooks. And so I had
He
like
gave you some of his college textbooks.
economic textbooks from college, and was
Did
trying
you read
to write
them?
I made like a 60-page business plan.
No
Gosh,
way. That's what I mean by like you go hard.
We never made a business. We've never made one.
I don't know how to make a business plan.
No,
Well,
we still-
just so you know, it like wasn't worth anything.
Okay.
Every bank turned me down.
Every bank turned you down. Yeah,
Every
of
bank
course.
turned-
Yes,
Yeah.
I know. That's the man.
And they would all probably say yes to you right now.
Oh, yeah.
I mean, it's like, I don't need money as much as I like really, really, really need it. And they were all like, no.
yeah, everybody turned us down.
And
Yeah,
then now they're like, yeah, we'll give you loans.
it's crazy.
It's
yeah.
wild.
You do all this work, and they're like, you don't
So
have
you made a
much money.
business plan
Too
with
bad.
the hope of getting a loan or getting SBA loan or
Yeah.
something like that.
Take my business plan, take a scoop of ice cream, like, and they would be like, this is like great. If you have somebody to co-sign for the full amount, we'll give you a
Yes.
loan. And I'm like, if I had somebody to co-sign for the full amount, I wouldn't be here.
Yeah.
Dude, yes. Thank you. That right there is like a hard lesson that everybody has to learn. It's like if you do not already have money, getting money for a loan to start a business is very difficult at
very
first.
hard.
Very hard. And it's like,
And that's what weeds most people out.
yeah, that's right. And it's like, oh yeah, we'll give you money as long as some rich person is going to sign with you.
If you're a doctor,
Yeah.
then we'll give you.
Yeah. Sorry, keep going. So how did that play out? Like, how'd you get the money? Like friends, family,
No.
like raising it?
I don't know if I've ever said this publicly, but like I only had a loan. Like I got an SBA loan for I think $20,000, and that was a stretch. That was like,
Yes.
you know, like we had, and then I sold all of my camera equipment.
Wow.
I sold.
That's like kind of burning the ships.
Bootstrapping.
Have you heard that expression where like there's no going back
There's
because
no
we
going
burned
back.
the ships?
Yeah.
You just burned your other source of income.
Yeah, I had one camera left, but I had sold majority of my stuff.
Wow.
And then bartered, and then really, really did things cheaply.
And y'all found a building.
We found a building. It was an old coffee shop, and we were like, we'll just put some lipstick on it and hope for the best. But I mean, like the ice cream machine is a really large purchase, a really expensive purchase, yeah, we just kind of went for it.
Man, that is like the coolest story ever. Like that is like just pinnacle entrepreneur. Like
taking a leap.
taking a leap of
Did you have
faith.
any naysayers in your circle of people are like, I don't think that's a good idea. What are you doing? Why are you doing that? Don't do that.
My parents weren't naysayers by any means, but they were like, "Are you sure?" Like,
Yeah.
I mean, they're not entrepreneurs, and so they were like, "Oh, like maybe like this is just one of Kari's ideas." Like, I don't.
Had you always had lots of ideas?
I was always very like passionate about when I like found something. I was like very passionate about
Yeah.
it, and would dig in and like try to learn as much as I could about it. But I mean, I have an uncle that's an entrepreneur, but really just didn't have like wasn't surrounded by that kind of thought process a lot. And so it was new for us. A bank that I applied to, the president was like, I don't think this idea is going to work here. She's still a bank president here in Fort Worth. So
We should go like Rapper House.
she since apologized, but like,
yeah.
like it works.
It does
you know?
work very well. Yeah, that's so awesome.
Yeah, but it was a shoestring budget. I mean,
Oh yeah, that's crazy.
and it really was like the Fort Worth community. I mean, but somebody had a spray painter. Is that what it's called? A
Paint gun.
Paint gun.
Yeah.
And we took 2 weekends and a gazillion trips to Home Depot, and we sprayed the yellow wall. And
Which I would argue. So one of my questions I'm gonna ask later. I can ask now. Is like just what do you think what was one of like the best decisions you've ever made? I would be willing to bet that painting that wall, whatever your magic yellow color is, was one of your best decisions you've ever made. Because like when I think,
yeah, because why?
well, because I feel like one of the, in my opinion, as outsider, one of the secrets to y'all's success is it's a great brand that people love, and it's very identifiable. It's like Nike has their check mark, Coca-Cola has that red color. When I think of, you can't think of Melt and not think of this yellow, like it's just iconic. It's different. The secret to a great brand is when you see it, you instantly know what it is. And there was something about that yellow, like.
Well, you know what the art theory is, that yellow is the color of happiness. It represents.
So it was thought out. It was like,
it was intentional. Like what do you want people to think of when you think of your brand? Like I want people to think of happiness. I want, how many times can you picture yourself as a kid or as an adult, like eating an ice cream cone and being sad? Like maybe you're trying to change your mood, but
like binge eating at night.
Yeah, but generally it's this, you have a memory or a moment that is joyful or happy from that experience.
Yeah, I would say like whenever I think of Melt, obviously the yellow and black are just yellow specifically, right? You know that, you can feel it. It's like maybe it is. Maybe I am seeing yellow and being happy. Maybe it's working on me. But I also think
secret brainwash.
It's like
happy.
I think at the time, and in Fort Worth, you were having authentic, homegrown, organic restaurants and things kind of stepping up at the time Melt was coming. But like nothing in ice cream, nothing in the dessert world at all.
There's
like,
a movement back to craft.
Yeah, there's movement back to craft, authenticity, this feeling of like homegrown and like roots, like from Fort Worth, or like this is our place. And obviously you thought through this. This is like, your whole story is like kind of coming together in this piece. But like, so whenever I saw Melt and it was coming, and by the way, the organic storytelling and social media marketing before Melt got started was just like, in my mind, like textbook on how to start a company.
Yeah, people were excited. Like, I don't know what you did, but people were very excited from like day one.
I mean, I think it was also a little simpler. Instagram was newer, like a lot newer. And so it was just this easy storytelling platform. There was no algorithms. It was just like, we're in the middle of building this space. Let me show you pictures of it, and it was us like painting the walls and scrubbing the things.
I still remember seeing pictures of that, of like, y'all, like, we got the space, we're painting it, we're coloring it, we're up here working on it. Like, I still kind of remember that.
But here's what I was getting at is whenever I saw that, it was like, this is my store. This is Fort Worth. These are my people. Obviously, we live a block away, but like, I'm like, this is it. Like, this is going to be my place that I go to for my ice cream. That's from my city. That's from my people. And it was like, I can feel myself in there. I could see myself like in your shoes as a small business owner. And I'm like, I'm supporting them. And I feel like that, I don't know. I don't know if most customers have said that to you, but I'm like, dude, this is mine. And finally, someone else from outside of Fort Worth is not, it's like, this is ours. And so whenever I think of Melt, I think of obviously the color, and I think of like, this is like our like ice cream place, Fort Worth,
Yeah. And I wanted it to be. I wanted it to be that way.
Which is like your dream coming to life. I haven't heard this dream. Like, you didn't tell me this dream beforehand, but I'm like, that's exactly how I feel. Yeah. This is our Fort Worth ice cream
But you
store.
also never know, like you never know if anything will actually, like, I will say one thing that was good with that business plan is like, you do these counts of like, okay, how many cars go by a day? What's the minimum number? Detailed. Well, it didn't get me anywhere with the banks. What's the minimum number of people I need to pay rent? Like if I have to work from open to close, how many customers a day do I absolutely have to pay rent? And then how many do I have to like maybe pay myself? And how many do I have to pay an employee? Like, but you never know if like you're ever going to get past that part of
the rent,
paying myself. Like to go from that to, and so I think it is like, you can't foresee like the future of what you want something to be. And maybe you could if you grew up in an entrepreneurial environment. I have no idea. But for me, it wasn't like, oh, I want to own all these ice cream shops. It was like, no, I want to own one store that I work in.
Pay my rent.
And I want to like my community have a place to eat ice cream.
And do you feel like it worked? Like, I mean, obviously it did, but in that moment, we're open and people are coming. Like, was it Was it fun? Were you excited?
It was terrifying. I mean, it was absolutely terrifying because I had no idea what I was doing. Like I don't know why I didn't like go work in an ice cream shop for a few months, but like
you tried to intern, you just got
the intern
you got rejected.
Got rejected. But I could have worked at a Marbles lab. I mean,
That's true.
we didn't know what temperature to set our ice cream dipping cabinets at. So like the first day that we scooped, our wrists were swollen
because it was so hard.
Because it was too cold. You know, it's like you just learn.
There's no playbook for that.
There's no playbook. You make mistake after mistake, and you just learn. I didn't know that you didn't buy. I mean, now I know, but you don't buy any. You don't buy any equipment that has a compressor on it used. Like you just don't. Like it's like, and I had bought all this
because the compressors go
auction. Yeah, because it just goes out. Like everybody in the restaurant industry will tell you, you never buy a used freezer. I was like, oh, I bought all used freezers. Like nobody told me that. Like,
and did they go out at different times?
Of course they did. Within like 4 weeks, I had to replace all the freezers.
Oh my!
Oh, in your first 4 weeks, your freezers went out.
Yes.
So did you? Because whenever you opened, there was like a rage. You know, like everybody was going there. There was lines. Did you get to enjoy that success at all, or were you too busy? Like, I got it. Like
my freezer just went out.
My freezer just went out. My hands are. I have to get chiropractor work or something. You know?
I think I absolutely enjoyed it because it was like, you know, there's so much leading up to those days. Like you are, like, there's just so much that is leading up to it that you are like, is anybody going to show up? You know, and so when people show up, like it validates like all of the sweat and tears, the hard work that you've put in, like to see people there and like, and to see their faces light up when they eat ice cream, and then to say that the ice cream actually is good and they enjoy it and they love it and that they are going to bring their families back. Like it is like, it's absolutely this moment of enjoyment. Also like sheer, like how, like figuring things out. Like it's frantic. But I mean, I had such great support from the community. Kristen Camerino was at Bike Share at the time, and like they surprised us with bike racks. And the Near Southside had budget to put in some plants on the outside. And
it was the first building was on Rosedale.
They're
like next to an auto mechanic.
He's still
shop.
my auto mechanic. Abdul, he's the greatest auto mechanic.
Yeah.
But it really wasn't the best location. I mean, it was
not
like
the best location.
High visibility, but it was like this.
We had 5 parking spots.
Yeah.
Yeah, but Tina from Leaves, she set up a game station for me for little kids on the day that we opened.
See, that's just incredible. Yeah,
and like people came together and like they were excited about it.
How did you buy new freezers? I'm assuming like you just spent all this money to get the doors open and then your freezer's going out.
Yeah.
Did you have some reserves?
I mean, it was 4 weeks in, so it was like money was like coming in, and so it was like, well, we need a freezer. We didn't have a POS system when we opened.
How were you taking money?
I had a Square reader on my phone and a cash box and a calculator.
Are you serious?
I mean, like, it's so dumb.
Unbelievable.
It's so dumb.
You just had a cash box and a calculator.
And a Square reader.
I think I remember that. I went the first like day or week, or I remember that.
I can't believe people came back.
Oh yeah,
Wow,
dude, I'm telling you, it's like this is our ice cream store.
I took all the towels home and washed them and would bring them back. I would wake up in the morning and I would drive to all the different restaurants and places that I needed to get the food to make my ice cream. And then I would make my ice cream before we opened, and then I would work the front counter.
Man, see that I feel like that a lot of times on, other podcasts or other stories, like you don't hear that part. That you're like literally, okay, what's my day-to-day job of my first 4 weeks? Well, my freezers went out. I have to go into my savings account, which I don't really have much of, or borrow money from friends. I'm taking my towels. I'm washing them at my house. I'm driving to the grocery store. It's like, and then, there's no coincidence. Now you have multiple locations and all this kind of stuff. But people see that and they're like, oh, well, yeah, she just started it. It was really successful. But they don't hear the grind. Like that is a grind.
There was, such a grind. If you guys ever gotten an eye twitch where your eye just won't stop twitching and it's from stress. Yeah. I didn't know that existed. My eye was like butterflying for like weeks and I was like, why is my eye going like this?
Dude, Gosh, man, that is just, yeah.
And
18.
Mark, like, he was working a full-time job that was very, it demanded a lot of him. And so he wasn't working 40 hours a week. He was working 50, 60 hours a week. And so, but he would still come after work and like help me close up the shop or work the register. On the weekends, he would work the register so we could get through more people in the line.
Wow.
So how did it start to grow? Like you eventually moved that location from Rosedale to Magnolia. And that you saw a big jump when you did that because it's just a much better location.
Yes. So we opened in April of 2014. I hired 2 people. We immediately, within, 6 weeks, hired 7 more people.
Whoa, that's crazy. So now you're like, not only have a restaurant or a space, but now I have employees. And
I had never managed anyone in my life. And so I was like learning as I went and learning from other people. And I am a not afraid to ask questions kind of person. So like anybody that I thought was doing something really well, I would be like, can I take you to coffee? Can I call you? Can I ask you questions? And I had a customer who he was like, hey, a friend of mine used to own some ice cream shops in Nashville. He was like, I don't know if he just saw like my eye twitch or like
He's like her eyes freaking me out.
She's got the twitch. I need to get her help.
Something.
Yeah.
He was like, maybe you could reach out to him. And I was like, please give me his number. And so this was like mid to late summer, and I hired him to consult
as a consultant.
And his name was Brian. He was the kindest guy. And he had owned some franchise ice cream shops. And so he flew in and like he would sit down with me and like go over my operations. And then every month I would ask him questions. And so he really helped me kind of figure out how to like streamline my store. Because if you've never worked, I mean, like I had been a waitress, but like I hadn't worked in operations of a restaurant, and which is not the easiest way to learn it by doing it. But we started to grow. Our goal was to be the best 5 minutes of somebody's day. Our goal was to like melt away their problems. But we were really limited on our space. And so we could only make so much ice cream. Our freezers were in the customer space. There was no true giant backup house. We had 98 square feet in our kitchen. So really only one person could be in the kitchen. It's tiny. And so our problem was that people would show up at, 8 o'clock on a Saturday night, and I would run out of ice cream. Like I would sell the last scoop of ice cream. And like, imagine if you came with your son and you came from Burleson or wherever, and like you like, oh, I wanted to get ice cream in this new ice cream shop, and like we're like mopping up the floors, and we're like, we don't have any ice cream. Then like we truly felt like we couldn't live out our mission to be the best 5 minutes of somebody's day, to melt away their problems, if we didn't have like, it wasn't a happy experience. Like I feel like barbecue, like you can run out of barbecue and people are still like, yeah, I'm gonna go back next week and wait in line. But it was like, no, I was trying to be this like happy thing. And it's like, if you're a kid and like, I don't want to go to that ice cream shop, they never have ice cream. And so Will and Corey Churchill had approached us about a building that they had
from Frank Kent.
From Frank Kent, about a building they had purchased on Magnolia. And Mark was like, we got to do it. We got to move. And I was like, nobody moves their flagship location. Like, no, like, but we had all this trouble with our building. Like everything was breaking. We couldn't make enough ice cream. And so it was like, well, maybe we should take that leap. But it was like, it's so expensive. Like, like, how can we do this? So naturally, Mark quit his job and became the general contractor of this construction project. Really tested our marriage.
Wow. So he quit as y'all were doing that.
Yeah. So he had a very stable corporate job in finance.
And Mark, for people that don't know, he's just wicked smart. I mean, he's
very smart, analytical, great with numbers and pro formas. Not a contractor. At all.
So he quit. But things are going well enough that y'all are like, man, we got to kind of double down on this.
Yeah. I mean, I wouldn't say they were going well. They were going really well.
You saw the momentum
We saw the momentum, and we didn't want to lose the momentum, but it was still terrifying for him to quit his job. Like, it was like,
You just burned your other ships.
Yeah.
You
Yeah.
burned
And
the
I think
photography ships.
that point, my family was like, wait, he had the real job though. Like,
Yeah.
He had the real job.
like, wait, how are you going to get health insurance? Like, we were like, well, we'll figure it out. Like, we're going to build a new ice cream shop.
But I feel like that's important to note because the hardest leap I feel like is always the start. Like you go from that dream to like actually doing it. But then there's always round 2, 3, 4. I don't know. They still are keeping coming for us and probably for you, but there's still more leaps to make. And there's still like these big jumps. Like,
you can't go to that next level if you don't go in.
And it's typically with scaling or growing of some sorts. It's like, you got your revenue, you feel comfortable. It's like you have a nice profit margin maybe, or it's at least comfortable. But if you want to take that leap, you got to dip a little bit. You got to maybe go into the red. You got to take another risk.
And you also like, there's always a trade-off. So it's like, I could stay here. He could keep his job, but we might be trading like our customers and what we want the community experience, or we might be trading what this new store could do for us and our brand. It was the street we wanted to be on. Magnolia was the street we wanted to be on, but we were scared to spend that much money. We were scared to build out a space for something that we had no idea if it would work. But we still didn't really have money. Like we didn't have, we were still figuring it. I mean, like everything in that first stop was like, it was like a church pew that I got off of Craigslist, but I bartered with somebody in the neighborhood. I took his family pictures in order for him to go pick it up on his trailer. And then I bought fabric and I reupholstered it myself with neighbors. You know, it's like, so everything was kind of scrapped together. It was like, okay, if we're doing this, we're building this new store, like it's a big risk. Like we're in like even bigger risk if you're going to quit your full-time job that like pays for our mortgage and allows us to live. And so it was like, we're all in again. Yeah,
that's right.
And it sounds like part of that was mission driven. We're not able to fulfill our mission of melting away sorrows and bringing happiness.
Yeah.
And then part of it too was there's a demand. And then also just seeing like you had to also on some level say like, man, I think this could be a lot bigger. Like I think what we're doing is working. Could we expand upon that?
Yeah, I think so. Absolutely. I thought, well, I mean, like it was obviously resonating with our like customers. Like people were coming and they were trying it, and like the biggest complaints I was getting were like, I don't know where to park. Our stop sign, I stopped counting after it got knocked over 12 times because the parking lot was so small. Jimmy, a police officer, like knocked it over and he came in and was like, I'm really sorry. I'm like, and his family gave me a really hard time. Like it was really funny. But it was like, we just, and people were walking over from Magnolia. It was a really busy street. And so it was kind of dangerous. And so we knew it was where we wanted to be. And we wanted to continue with that momentum. But also like anything you do, it's like, will this work again? Like, was that just a one-time like luck thing? I don't know.
Yeah.
And it worked. And
you crushed it. Yeah.
Yeah. So but anytime there's growth, like that brings more problems. And so when we opened, Mark had done all of his pro formas, and this is what he does for literally every project that we do. Anytime we're going to spend any substantial amount of money, he like makes a low, a medium, and a high case and a worst case scenario. So like what's like the best case scenario, the worst case scenario, and like what's a conservative number. And so we thought we would have an increase in business of 20%, just naturally, the easier to get to, easier to stop into. It's on a natural walking path of other restaurants and whatnot. And within the first 6 weeks. So with that in mind, we built a kitchen, we built bigger freezers, had more than 98 square feet in the kitchen. We thought this was this giant, for us, we thought it was this giant space. Like we had 900 square feet and a big patio. It was like, we are like so excited. And within 6 weeks, we had increased our traffic by 70%.
Wow.
And so it was like,
and your same problems.
Yeah, it was like, well, we're running out of
space again.
We're running out of space, and so we then had to look for, what do you do next? Like you either build a kitchen or we had to figure some kind of solution so that we weren't continuing to run out of ice cream.
Mm-hmm. And that's whenever you move kind of stuff off site, like the ice cream portion of that, like off site, or was it starting store number 2, which came?
So building the Joy Factory came. So we started looking for kitchen space to rent, warehouses that we could build out, and like nothing really. We couldn't find anything that was already built to fit our needs, so we had to build something. Mm-hmm. And so we built a space within the old Obi macaroni facility, which was one of the longest, oldest businesses in Fort Worth, food businesses for sure. It had 100 years of like a family legacy macaroni factory. And so we were like, that's got to be good luck to have a food business last 100 years.
That's cool. This episode of Stories with Soul is brought to you by 6th Ave Storytelling. At 6th Ave Storytelling, we know that stories aren't just for bedtime, they're powerful marketing tools, and we've seen what they can do. Want to see for yourself? Download our free PDF, The Storytelling Pathway, on our website, 6avstorytelling.com. It's everything your business needs to be successful. This is what I've used to grow my businesses and hundreds of others. It's a strategy that has led to #1 albums, built large followings, and has helped generate millions of dollars in revenue, thousands of leads, and tons of traffic. I've seen client after client reach their goals, which is why I'm crazy excited to share it with you today. I'm offering this for free because it's my personal mission to support small business owners and entrepreneurs no matter where they are at on their journey. Because small businesses are the heartbeat of a city, and they really are what make it special. 6th Avenue Storytelling has helped brands across the country grow their business using these exact steps. Head to 6avstorytelling.com and download the Storytelling Pathway to get your step-by-step guide today.
Really, you probably shouldn't build a kitchen in like a building from the 1800s, but like you learn those things.
Yeah.
So
that's what you call the Joy Factory.
That's what we call the Joy Factory.
Yeah.
And so we have about 3,000 square feet there.
That's a big thing to bite off.
It was a very big thing to bite off. And so to pay for it, Mark took a consulting job. And
we need Mark to consult for us and make us those performas.
He's very good at that.
What is a pro forma again?
So he was supposed to be gone for 3 or 4 weeks, and it ended up being 3 months. So he would leave on a Monday and fly back on a Thursday, but it was either that or get investors, and we firmly believed we didn't want investors that we wanted. So you
still don't have any investors?
Man,
to this day,
that's so cool.
Don't have any investors.
Totally bootstrapped it.
Very much. And there's pros and cons to bootstrapping.
Still bartering right now to this day.
Still bartering.
Yeah.
So moved all your production offsite, the Joy Factory. You also at some point you bought a truck, right?
Yeah, that came after the second store.
The second store was Sundance or Dallas?
Second store was Bishop Arts.
Bishop Arts.
And so whenever you did, you started the Joy Factory, to move your production offsite, obviously as a need for, you need more space because of the Magnolia store. But was the vision always to grab a second store or kind of move into another area? Or was it we have the production now, we could do this? Was it?
Well, you have to think your overhead substantially increases. If I'm going to rent a space off site, that's 3,000 square feet, and think about the electricity and the water and the logistics. If my overhead's going to go up that much, I have to have a second.
I need a place to sell more ice cream.
Additional revenue in order for that to make sense.
Yeah.
And really, we had to think, if we're going to build an offsite kitchen, we need more than a second store to offset that
That's right.
overhead.
Yeah.
And so it was we knew the capacity in which we could produce out of that kitchen, which could either be 8 to 10 stores or catering, a certain number of catering that we do wholesale. But we knew in order for the cost that we were going to spend on that kitchen to make sense, we had to grow.
Yeah.
And that was a really hard decision for us because I I didn't know if I wanted to be just a one-shop legacy business, or could we maintain the specialness of who we are as a brand if we had multiple locations? Because a lot of people lose that buzz. They lose that that special quality to them when they replicate. And that was so important to me, that like we maintain like this special
craft
quality about like it's just this. It's hard to even put into words, but like it's like when you go into a replica of something, it's like it loses part of its soul, and so like it's so hard to keep that soul as a part of your company as you grow. And that was really important, and like very fearful of mine that we would lose. And so that was kind of at the forefront of like, how do we continue to create a business that has this heartbeat to it, but also not lose, you know, who we are in the process of growing.
Yeah, and the Bishop Arts location, that one's the name of that is Melt still.
Melt. Yes.
Yeah, I was going to say, but was there a new branding? Did you brand it differently at the time or something like that? Was there something? What did you do to separate that?
Yeah, I mean,
like the vibe, the feel. Did you do like, what was the thought behind that?
Yeah, I mean, like really, I feel like a space kind of lends itself to tell its story, and like a community lends itself to tell its story. And so like we wanted these threads of the store from Fort Worth and who we are as a brand. We wanted you to feel us as a brand, but we also, it's a different store. It needs a different experience, different vibe, a different kind of set of qualities to it, so to speak.
Yeah, I just felt like the branding, I think you differentiated those two places just with the space itself, and then the kind of the branding, the style of it. Obviously keep the same themes and stuff, but I thought it was like designed really well and kind of kept that like individuality to it.
And so y'all did Bishop Arts in Dallas, and then Sundance Square, you opened a location, which I know that was you took over the old marble slab spot, which that was kind of like that was where you used to, it was the chain, but that was kind of like an iconic. It was
where you ate ice cream downtown.
Yeah, I remember as a kid.
It was marble slab, and then it was Pachuco.
Oh yeah, that's right.
I forgot about that.
And that was a big deal for you guys, right? Like taking in, if you grew up here, you're like, that's where we grew up going.
Yeah.
Dude.
Yeah, I mean, I came down here from college and would go there.
That's
walk
crazy.
around the square with an ice cream.
And then you also had a food truck, or have a food truck. What do you call that?
The Joyride.
Joyride,
yeah.
Everything is on brand, on mission. And then you're going in, your next venture is you're going in Stockyards.
Yep, Mule Alley.
Talk a little bit about that.
Yeah, so when this new development company came in and said, like, we kind of want to like freshen the Stockyards. Like, we want to take it. To me, like, Stockyards is such a unique place to Fort Worth. Like, it's rich with history, and a lot of people, I don't feel like know like just how much history is there. But this was this place of commerce in the 1800s. Like, it's where the trains would bring cattle and people would do livestock exchanges, and all of these barns, they were called mule barns. They were just being used for parking. And so this company saw a vision to like, why can't we turn this into like beautiful like retail? Why can't we reimagine the space but keep the original structure, keep the history of it, but like have people experience these barns in a new way, and kind of, and that's the way they were back. I would say maybe it wasn't the 1800s, maybe it was in the early 1900s. There's these like incredible pictures of them, but that like they have these barns, and they were all kinds of stores. I can't remember like all of the different stores, but it'd be, I'm sure it's like where you would get your hat and your, jewelry or whatever. I don't know.
But they brought that
They brought it back.
It's crazy cool. I mean,
it's so cool.
With the Hotel Drover and all that.
Hotel Drover's beautiful.
And it blows my mind when I go down there how many people are there. It's bonkers, the amount of people.
It's almost the same amount of people. It's the second most visited destination outside of the Alamo.
Wow.
In Texas.
Is it really? Mm-hmm. The Stockyards? That's so crazy.
Yeah, but I mean, they have. I mean, the new development down there is just incredible. Like, so if you haven't been down,
and when is that store opening?
I believe December, maybe.
Okay.
Construction.
Ish.
I don't
We'll
know.
see.
Permits. I don't know.
Where's our contractor? Where's Mark? Yeah.
Mark is no longer the contractor.
Okay.
But that's exciting. And at some point in the past, actually, let's Well, before we talk about Whole Foods, because Whole Foods I feel like is a whole other part of your journey. Was there a point where you're like, man, this is it. This is working. This is successful. This feels really good. Like, was there a point where you're like, this is actually a real thing? It may have been like way back with Magnolia, or it may have been back with Rosedale, but
I think it's like that's really hard to put into words because like I feel like as an entrepreneur, I've changed a lot in the last like decade.
Yeah.
Like you go through this like I don't know, you kind of go through this streamy state of like, how big could this brand be? Like, what could I do? What could this be for our city? Like, how many people could we employ? Like, how do we become this employer that is like the employer for high school kids? Like, how do we grow that? But also, how do you grow people within an organization? Like, how do you grow leaders? And like, and I think at some point you're like, well, this is also like beyond me and my capabilities, but like they're expert people that you can hire and work with. And like, to me, that started becoming much more enjoyable of like having people that were experts in their field, being a part of this journey and being part of, and that kind of really has changed my perspective of like how big or small we want to be as a company. Like, I don't want to be a national chain. I don't want to, it's really helped me narrow in like what we want with
So do you
our
know
brand.
what you want? Like 5 years from now? What is the 5-year Melt vision?
Yeah, we want to be a DFW brand. We want to be like the loyal local ice cream brand for Dallas Fort Worth. We want
So still that local component.
Yeah, I don't want to even go statewide. Like we there's 7.2 million people here in DFW, and like not all of them have had Melt ice creams.
Yeah.
And I want to be a place that my employees love to work at, and a place that you come as a high school student and you gain valuable leadership skills and you can take Melt education classes.
I love that you've kind of identified a demographic that you employ.
Yeah, absolutely.
High school kids. That's kind of cool.
Yeah, it's really cool.
And you see that as an opportunity to also like train and mentor.
Yeah. And
when you say
develop.
Melt educational classes, what do you mean by that?
I mean, like, what I've found in like working with a lot of high schoolers is like they are like, yeah, they have the internet at their fingertips, but they want like special things, and they're really smart and they want to learn. So like, if we have budgeting classes, if we have how do you apply for scholarships at college, like things that teach valuable life skills, like then they're more invested in who you are and they're more invested to a brand and a business if they're learning something.
So you doing that right now? Or is that kind of like
Something
future
we're
stuff?
working on.
Yeah.
We're working on a whole leadership program. Like, I think there's a lot of, I don't know if it's social media, but like a lot of people see a certain lifestyle or they think like this happens overnight, and it doesn't.
Yes.
They think you can like reach like, I guess, a certain level of entrepreneurship but it really takes like how much have you learned in business? Like how many books have you read? How much have you spent on like being mentored and learning and going to workshops and business? Like, I mean, I have spent so much money on that stuff. Like, and I love it and I like soak it up. But like, how can I take all of the things that I have learned and put them in bite-sized pieces for other people to learn? And so like, even if somebody is with me for a year, like I want them to be able to take away something incredibly valuable that they reflect on for the rest of their life or take into another job.
And it makes better employees.
It makes better employees and better community.
Better employees because they become better leaders. And then two, they also, it helps build trust and loyalty with you guys because you're pouring into them.
Yeah.
That's exciting. I
think that's super important too, knowing that these are employees that are going to leave you, but you're still willing to invest like into them, and they might not, obviously, like, I mean, they might be,
well, if they're in high school,
but I mean,
Yeah.
the chances of them leaving
It's
are
not a
like
lifetime job.
90+%, right? But I mean, to take that time and pour into your people, I mean, geez, can you imagine if just regular employers took the time to do that? You're doing it with people that are leaving you.
Yeah.
And I mean, just at regular employers that have people that are going to be working for them for 10 years, pouring into them. I mean, gosh, man, that's incredible.
And, we also like, we have several salaried members, and it's like,
Sure.
what is the path to growth within an organization? How do you become if you see a job that you want, like, how do you become a leader? Well, the natural steps are like to learn these skill sets. And it's like, what if we just had these skill sets available for people to learn, then it makes the company better. It makes them better, just like you're saying. So.
As a leader, do you have certain like leadership principles or ways of operating or like things you say and do a lot, or like what are some of, because how many team members do you have roughly?
We have around 40 right now. 40. It's kind of going into our slow season, but in the summer we'll have around 70.
Okay, that's a lot. So, do you have any like personal, like just leadership? Here's how you lead a team of 40 to 70 principles that would be helpful for sharing?
I feel like I'm still very much learning. I think, we like to, oh gosh, that's a challenging question. I am a person who sees, I see problems, in everything, and I want things to be better, which is, every strength, I think, has a corresponding weakness. And so that's, a strength in business. But as a leader, that can be a giant weakness if, your boss is can you get, work on these 6 things, every time you see them. And so for me, it's actively looking for and working on finding the wins and the goods of my team and my organization and celebrating those.
It's it's your superpower and your Achilles heel.
Yeah.
Because it's your superpower because you make things that are freaking awesome because you're I don't settle. I want it to be better. It can be better. I have this vision of what it could and should be, but you can also be critical.
Yes.
And that can also be demotivating for people.
I don't know if that answered your question. Other leadership.
But that's self-awareness. You personally as a leader, you're talking about you're learning how to balance that.
Yes.
And wield that.
Yeah. Other leadership principles. I feel like there are a lot, but for us, really just figuring out ways to care for people, while still doesn't mean that you can't do your job well and be professional, but learning that the more that we care for people and then they show other people that they are cared for, it's just a trickle down effect. But I think just empowering people that you see something and you want to do something within this organization, it's okay. Even if I know that's not going to work or I've tried that before, I want them to know that they can try things, and I want them to know that
allow people to fail.
Yeah. Because it's going to because if they don't try things and they don't have the room to fail, then they're not going to try the things that are going to work.
I want to follow up with that really quick. What are a few things that you will never do as a leader? Or you're man, these are bad leadership traits. I will never do this or be like this because I've either seen it or I've done it and I never want to do that again. One of my things is I don't want all the employees, I never want them to hear me say, we do that because that's the way it's always been done. That's something I hate in business, right? I'm that's one of I had a boss one time who's well, that's just how we've always done it. And I'm I'll never say that, Is there anything that you see in your leaders below you or you and yourself where you've been never going to do that? Or have done that, never going to be like that? Characteristics, traits, qualities.
We have we don't raise our voice.
That's
that's interesting.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's a cool rule.
But I feel that should be standard professionalism.
Not if you're a chef though.
In the restaurant world, no.
That's that's encouraged. I think
yelling at each other. Yeah.
Yell and cuss at each
I
other.
think that's very normal.
If you're a chef or something, aren't you supposed to yell or something? I don't know. I think that's industry standard.
Not at the Joy Fest. It's joy.
It's joy. You're creating happiness. You can't yell.
Creating happiness.
No, that's cool. That's on brand.
Gosh, maybe these are questions. These questions I should have looked up. I don't know. I know I'm going to think of all these great things.
Tell me this, because I'm curious about this. Is when I go into Melt with my girls, because we go all the time. They freaking love Melt. That's they know what it is. They ask for it. and your employees are always crazy, kind, and patient, and like that idea of the people are coming in to have happiness, experience happiness. And people, my kids are like dripping ice cream everywhere. They're messy and they don't follow the line and all that stuff, but they're always very kind. I feel like part of your culture is kind and fun, and so there obviously is an awareness of your mission that you have instilled in them. Like, how do you do that? Can you talk
Yeah, that's a great question. Maybe that will help answer the principal's question. So we have a set of core values that are part of what everybody learns when they become a member of our team. I teach an orientation to any new team member.
You personally always teach it?
I personally teach.
Every new team member?
Every new team
wow,
member.
Okay.
That's awesome.
And in that orientation, I go over what are the most, like, our origin story, what are the most important things to us at Melt, our mission, our core values, and how we live out those core values and why they matter, and how you live out those core values to your team members and how you live out those core values to our customers.
So you don't give them just core values. You're like, here's practical applications of these core values.
And I ask them, like, how have you seen this lived out? Because most of the time, like, when they're at orientation, they've already gone through some of their training. And so it's really like, how do you give somebody the best 5 minutes of the day? Like, we have a principle.
Is that one of your core values? Give someone the best 5 minutes of the day?
Creating quality moments.
Okay. Yeah.
Creating moments and experiences, delivering the best quality. But kind of the best 5 minutes of your day is kind of like the undertone of all of our training.
A mantra, sort of.
Mantra, I guess, so to speak. And we have a 10-4 rule. If somebody is within 10 feet of you, you make eye contact with them. If they're in 4 feet of you, you speak to them.
Oh, that's cool.
And so...
Because that kills me at restaurants where, like, go in and they're, like, just head down, like, ignoring you.
Avoiding you. Yeah.
Your people do that. They, like, come in and like, hey.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah. That's really cool.
Yeah.
10-4 rule.
A lot of the things that we have at Melt, like, are not things that I've come up with. I don't think there's, like, a lot you can invent under the sun, but, like, we look for best practices. Like, I am not afraid to, like, LinkedIn stalk somebody and, like, email them. I emailed Danny Myers this summer. I was like, there's nobody like...
Who's Danny Myers? Should I know who that is? Oh, Shake Shack. Okay.
You
emailed the Shake Shack guy?
Yeah.
Did he write you back?
Yeah, he did.
Nuh-uh.
Yeah.
Cool.
But Ari Weisenwig has wrote a number of books. He has a business called Zingerman's, and I adore this business. They do a lot of trainings for not just the restaurant industry, any industry, but they're like diehard business principles that, like, are belief systems about, as an entrepreneur, like, you change. Like, as your business grows, you go through these, like, ebbs and flows and, like, mountaintops and valleys. And they provide a lot of, like, really specific training that's just really applicable for a restaurant. It's applicable for any business.
What are some of those books? Or what's the book called?
He has a leadership principles book.
Zingerman? Ari Zingerman?
Ari Weisenwig, but it's called Zingerman's. It's called, and they have their...
I think we'll Google this and put this.
Yeah, we're going to have to put this somewhere.
Yeah, Zing Train is their training.
Zing Train.
And we've sent staff members, and we've gone up and...
So that's been an instrumental sort of resource.
Instrumental.
Cool.
I mean, they are this small Ann Arbor, not small, it's a $90 million business, but it's a small restaurant group.
Wow.
That's awesome. Okay, I want to dive into, we've talked a lot about, like, growth and success and people.
Yeah.
We have not talked about when the shit hits the fan and the hard nights that come with this as well, which I know, like, COVID, like, the industry that was probably affected the most by COVID was the restaurant industry, is what you're doing. Can you talk a little bit about, like, was there a moment where you're like, why am I doing this? I'm going to lose it all. Can you talk about some of that?
Yeah.
And what you did, like what?
Yeah. The first thing I did the day after was like the week after spring break.
But you're gearing up for your busy season. You're like gearing up.
Yeah. Typically we are hiring as much staff as we can. From spring break to really the end of September, October is our our busy season. So that week I created a 4-stage plan for our company of like, if things get to this level, this is what we'll do. So we kind of had this loose plan that we thought it would take weeks and weeks to get to. And I rolled that out to our leadership team on a Thursday, and we were there by Saturday. And then internally, what Mark and I like decided was like, I just wrote a letter to our staff and said, you know, like, if you don't rely on this, I'll back up. I did that, and then I called somebody that had gone through like the economic crisis in 2009. I was like top 3 things you did that your company like helped your company survive. And he gave me like, cut your cost, like things that like you feel like are like you just need somebody else to say it. Like cut your cost, get as lean as possible. And so I wrote a letter to our staff, and, you know, just kind of said, like, if anybody doesn't need this job, doesn't rely on this job for a full-time income, like, then we welcome your resignation.
That's a hard thing to ask.
If you don't feel comfortable, like if your family doesn't feel comfortable with you working in the service industry, like, essentially your job will be waiting for you on the other side of this, and we hope it's really short. And a lot of our high schoolers resigned at that time. And that was a like stay up all night, cry all night, kind of like, I can't believe this is where we're at. We had literally just opened 2 stores. We'd opened Bishop Arts in 2019 and Sundance in 2019, and opened our ice cream truck in 2019. So it was like the bulk of our growth. And so really the majority of our company has just been growing. Like we hadn't recouped any of this cost that we have just like spent. And so it was like 2020 summer was supposed to be like, we're not going to grow. We're just going to focus on like operations and like making our company stronger and better, and like recouping some of that cost into the business that we had just poured out. So we sent out this letter, and a lot of people openly resigned. And then we just had to kind of move some things around. We closed 2 stores for 10 weeks. Mark made new performers, and he was like, this is how we're going to survive. We took every subscription that we had. We took almost every cost out that we could take out except for marketing. To me, it was like, if we're going to survive this, we're going to survive this with marketing.
Y'all kind of doubled down on marketing. Y'all were like, a lot of businesses
did the opposite.
Cut marketing.
Yes.
Yeah, we like quadrupled marketing.
We spent way more on marketing. So we're like, this is the only thing that matters.
Like I was like, I do not want us to be forgotten. You know, if we're gonna go out, we're gonna go out fighting and swinging. And so it was just terrifying. I mean, it was really terrifying. Did that answer your question?
Yeah, no, it totally does.
I mean, I will say, you know, there were some cool moments though of Melt. Like, I mean, you guys were still like carrying out your mission. I mean, I think there was some like philanthropic things going on. Like you were giving ice cream out to frontline workers. And
but we didn't give it out. So we actually, what we did was, we didn't want anybody to think that we were like profiteering off of it.
Sure.
And so we discounted the cost of the ice cream.
Okay.
It was twofold. Like I needed work for my staff to do. And we wanted to give back to the community like in a tangible way when you
needed revenue too. Like you needed
to pay your people.
Yes,
you needed to sell ice cream.
Yes.
Because you can't pay people if you don't sell ice cream.
Right.
Yeah.
And so, but we wanted our customers included in that. So we launched Happiness for Heroes, and it was like a discounted price for ice cream. And we would, you know, and ask them to write notes. And so I would print all the notes off. I did all of the deliveries because I was like, we didn't, you know, back then we didn't know. And I would literally like throw the ice cream at the front door, like knock on it and like hand it over.
Because you didn't know if that's how it was going to.
Yeah, we didn't know how it was spreading then.
Yeah.
And so, and that was really, it was really special. I mean, like clinics started calling us, and they would be like, we are having the worst day of our life. Like, has anybody done? And we'd be like, we'll be there in 10 minutes. Like, we got you, you know? And
cool.
it was really special.
To kind of bring some joy in the midst of.
Yeah. Really, it really was. It was really special.
Well, and then like some people like, they were working, they had full-time jobs. Some people like didn't get hit hard, and they were trying to, okay, what are all the local places where we can contribute? And what you did was you offered a platform for them to contribute to not only your business, but also other people as well. And so like, I know tons of stories of like businesses that have done that, including yours, where people would just donate money to just give to them, as well. And so like, what you're doing is creating a platform to like give doubly almost, and so it's just a cool concept, which I thought was really unique, for your business. So I don't know.
And y'all pivoted some other ways too?
Yeah, and that was neat because the customers would write these letters and notes and we'd print out, and it was like, some of them were like super like touching, like, hey, this hospital took care of my dad, so I want to do this in his honor, or
that's awesome.
Yeah, but like it's like, I mean, because if you didn't lose your job, right, or if your company was still paying for you somehow, because there's definitely people that didn't get hit hard, and so you gave them a platform to not only like give to you as a business, but also to give as well. And so I think that's like, a lot of people just didn't know how to do that either. Like they felt bad, they felt guilty because they still had a job, and they were like, I mean, I want to help out too. And so just even having that platform was just a cool way of allowing them to serve in a kind of indirect way.
Yeah,
so
absolutely.
It was cool.
Yeah. And we pivoted in other ways too. I mean, we were still paying rent at these. I think that's what a lot of people don't realize. Like, why is the hospitality industry still suffering? It's like, we were closed for 10 weeks. Like, the margins in the restaurant industry are so freaking thin. Like, if you aren't just so specific with how you spend your money and how you run your company, like, you can be out in a month. Like, and so having 10 weeks of shutdown and like,
were you on the verge of shutting down at any point? Like,
no, we weren't.
Because y'all were really smart about your margins.
Well, you pivoted so fast too.
We pivoted fast. Also, we took advantage of the IDL. We did not get any of the restaurant relief funds, but we did get the
PPP, yeah.
Yeah. And then Fort Worth was really great about some grants that we applied to and were able to get. But then, a lot of those came with like, I mean, y'all know, like they came with like very specific things on like how you use those and how you appropriated those funds. So it wasn't like this free for all, like, and you still had like bills off the wazoo. Like there are landlords that like weren't willing to negotiate with us. Like, so you just had to keep paying rent, or like you risk the doors being locked on you. So, but then we did pivot quite a bit in that, like, well, if you think about it, like we do really innovative flavors, at least we try, like really have exciting, interesting flavors. But if you can't taste the ice cream, like then you're not going to try something wild. So like we had to like really create comforting flavors that you would want to eat. Like we kind of had to change like that aspect of our flavors. And we were only, for a long time, we were just selling pints. We weren't selling scoops. You lost that experience with us.
Because you weren't sure if it was safe or not.
Yeah. Like we didn't do samples for almost a year.
So you couldn't do like these weird experimental flavors.
Right.
Yeah, that makes sense.
I mean, if like our business went from like this certain business model to this totally
try all these flavors,
model.
and now we can't do that.
Man, that's a testament to entrepreneurship. Right.
And then at some point, so stores open back up, and then Whole Foods entered in at some point, which is kind of crazy because you're now in Whole Foods.
Yes, 14 Whole Foods.
14 Whole Foods. Is that and? Talk about that a little bit.
Yeah, so Whole Foods approached us.
Which I'm sure opened a whole other sea of problems.
Oh, 100%.
Like, how do you get in all these 14 Whole Foods?
100%.
But it's freaking cool.
More problems. Yeah. Whole Foods had approached us earlier in business, and we were like, well, we're just not ready. Like, so much of Melt is this experience in our stores, and we weren't quite sure if our production could handle, like, this pint line, and like there's just a lot of fear in the unknown, right? And it's really a different business model when you go from retail to CPG, consumer packaged goods, on a grocery store shelf. You lose control over that product. Like it is no longer in your hands. You are at kind of the whim of a large retailer. And so it's a very different business model. And when you like, it's not me selling the product. So like the margins on that are like very thin. So it's just a different business completely. And so, but when the pandemic hit, grocery store sales went up, and it was like, well, how do we diversify to protect our company if this were to happen again? And so it kind of became this like almost safety net of like, okay, if we experience COVID at the level that we experienced it again, if there's another shutdown, do we have enough avenues to sell our product in order to protect the company and protect our employees so that we can afford to keep them on staff and pay them? And, you know, we were able to keep every single staff member that relied on us for a full-time income throughout COVID, which was just really important to us because it was, you know, like I didn't make a salary for a long time. Like we were able to rely on our savings, but I didn't know that if all of my employees could do that. And, you know, and one of the other ways I would say that we pivoted when it hit was I approached all of our restaurant like friends that were selling family meals. And like even if they didn't have a freezer, we'd say, we'll get a freezer and we'll bring it to you. Like we'll go take it from the store that's closed and we'll bring it to you. And they would sell our ice cream at a markup so that they were still making some margin on that too. But it provided them an option so they didn't have to make desserts because they also had limited staff and they were providing a family meal. So that was an outlet that allowed us to stay in our customers' minds, provided like an opportunity for us to sell product.
Super freaking smart. I love it. Okay, got a little bit time left.
Lightning round.
Well, I just want to talk about Ultra.
Oh, we haven't talked about
just a little bit.
Yeah, we got to talk a little bit about
just
that.
A little bit. Just give me quick version of how'd you get into this?
Oh my gosh, none of my stories are quick.
No, well, I mean, like, did you always enjoy running? Like, you know.
No, I got fat from ice cream.
That's the best answer ever. You're not supposed to eat your own supply. It's like drug dealing 101, right? Yeah, like, so, no.
I don't know if no people would get that reference.
Oh, yeah, sorry.
Jimmy was undercover.
In drug dealing, you don't use your own supply.
Yeah, because you were undercover.
Yeah.
Narcotics.
Yeah. Well, anyways, we'll get into it. So
I don't know that I would know that reference.
Hey, dude, people know, okay? People know. You're just, you're not in the scene. Okay?
Don't eat your supply.
Yeah. So you ate too much of your supply, apparently.
Yes.
So you started running because you're like, I'm gonna lose the ice cream weight, I guess, apparently.
Yeah.
Okay.
Actually, I played sports in college. I played soccer in college.
Yeah.
And I had run one marathon after college because I like needed something to train for right after school. I was like, what do I do? But a friend in the neighborhood had asked me to train for a marathon. I was like, oh, that's so much time. But I was also like, I'm kind of fluffy. Maybe that'll help me lose the weight. And so I signed up for this marathon. And I wanted to train super early in the morning. And there was only like another neighbor of ours. He trained early in the morning.
So funny side note is we all live on the same street.
Yes.
Yeah. This is like 1, 2, and he lives on the next block over. Yeah.
He's one block over.
Yeah.
And so I started running with him, and I was like, what are you training for? And he was like, oh, I'm doing this trail race. So he started telling me about trail racing. And I didn't grow up in mountains or anything like that. My husband taught me to camp. He taught me to fall in love with backpacking, outdoors. He wasn't a Boy Scout, but he knows how to do all the things outside. He's very good at making fires and food and stuff outside.
So in an apocalypse, you want to be.
Yeah, you definitely.
He's your guy.
He
can make the fires.
He can make the fires and
then
the
write
food.
a pro forma about the firewood.
Right. He would be able to tell you how much wood each person could burn.
Yeah.
So I was like, well, when is that race? And he told me, and I was like, I just went home and signed up for it. I didn't really know anything about it.
This is a trail run.
It's a trail run race. So this was maybe, I don't know, October, November. And he had taken me and some of the other girls in our neighborhood to go run the trails. And I loved it. I was black and blue. I was bloody, but I was like, this is fun. This is totally different than running on the road. And so I told him the next day, I was like, hey, I signed up for that trail race. And he was like, hey, like, I don't know if you'd know much about these races. He was like, but that's an unsupported trail race. It's 62 miles in the woods.
Whoa.
And like
You signed up for a 62-mile race
Yeah.
on like a mountain in the woods.
And I was like, well, tell me about it. What does that mean? He was like, well, there's no volunteers. Like, you have to carry all your own food. They have water stations, but like, you're kind of on your own. And I was like, okay, well,
I can figure it out.
yeah, I'll figure it out.
I love that.
And then I went home and I like hired a coach, and I met with this coach, and she started making my digital training plans. And so I would know what to run every day. But while I was working on like training for that, I had a few glasses of wine one night, and I was like, I'd read this book called Born to Run. Like, every ultra runner reads this book, and it talks about this race in Colorado, the Leadville 100. And I was like, oh, like if I'm training for a 62-mile race, like what's 38 miles more? Like, I don't know, like why not?
So I had never done this, and you signed up for a 62-mile race.
Yes.
And then you signed up for a 100-mile race.
Well, I put my name in the lottery, and I was like, the likelihood is like, I probably won't get in.
This is what I mean by like, if you do something, you go hard.
Yes.
Yeah.
There's no like dipping your toe in the water.
I didn't even tell Mark. I put my
Yeah.
name in the lottery.
Yeah.
Because I was like, I won't get in. Like, it's not
And
going to
you
happen.
hadn't even run like a normal marathon
I
out.
hadn't even run the marathon I was training for yet.
Love it.
Run the marathon.
So extreme.
Get to the end of the marathon. It took me forever to run this marathon. I'm crying.
Mm-hmm.
And Mark is like, what's wrong? And I was like, I can't believe I signed up for a 62-mile race. And he was like, let's worry about that another day. And
You did good. That's cute. Yeah.
yeah, let's go get a burger.
Yeah.
So then I get into this lottery at Leadville, and I tell this coach that I've hired, like, hey, I got into this race that's later in the summer in the Colorado mountains. And she's like, that's like one of
The Leadville 100.
Yeah,
You idiot.
she's like, that's nuts.
Yeah.
Also, now this trail race that you were training for, the 62-mile race, is really just a practice run. And I was like, oh, wow. Okay, like, this is legit.
Yeah.
So I just fell in love. I think I fell in love with the training, and I fell in love with that time alone in my head to think. And I fell in love with truly in these races, like you experience, I would say everything that you experience in entrepreneurism, in being an entrepreneur.
Yeah, analogy's about to come. Hit me with the analogy.
You experience in a race, like every high and low, every like wonderful thing, like you are on top of the world and at the bottom of the barrel, all within this 24-hour period.
And it's a grind. It's a
grind.
Yeah.
And it is, and you get to the finish line, and it's like, or sometimes you don't get to the finish line.
Yeah. Yeah.
But you have just experienced, like you are just so grateful for where you are in life and like what you've been through on that experience. And like you learn something. You learn something about yourself. You learn something about the world. Like you just take so much, and like you're so introspective, and like you're grateful for like really basic things like water and food, and like the ability to like see, and like people encouraging you that you don't know, and like being able to encourage other people that you don't know, and experiencing like really beautiful parts of the world that you just don't typically get to experience. So I always gain something from it, and I think I just really got addicted to like.
And you're like all in now.
I'm
That's like
very all in now.
That's like your thing. It's kind of crazy because you went from being known as like Kari the Melt ice cream girl to, but you still are to a lot. But you're also like, at least in Fort Worth, you're also like Kari who goes and runs crazy things.
Yeah.
As well.
I have one hard question.
Okay.
Legacy. So I agree with Jamie on that one. Like Kari the Melt, ice cream connoisseur, not going to say mogul.
Mogul.
Ice cream, whatever, ultra runner, like super into it. I would say like as far as if you follow Kari at all on Instagram or you see like posts about it, write like it's a very well written, introspective, like in your heart, in your head type like posts about it. I think are just super good and super encouraging for anyone to read. So obviously encourage you guys to go do that. But like legacy, right? You know, what do you want to be known for? Like in 20 years, 30 years, obviously you're an entrepreneur, you're not going to hang up the hat on anything, but like, is it going to be Kari who started businesses or mini ice cream shops who has shaped young people? Is it going to be she's now, you know, a figure in running, racing, that type of thing? Is that more of a hobby? Is that going to turn into something that's more professional? Maybe, I don't know. Like, what does that legacy look like for you?
Yeah, I mean,
you might not know now.
Yeah,
it
I think I'm
like,
still figuring that out.
Yeah,
but
yeah.
I think for right now, for me, I'm definitely not a professional runner.
Yeah.
It's like very cute.
Yeah.
I do want to encourage more women in the sport of running.
Yeah.
I just recently signed on as ambassador for an organization called Free to Run, and it is supporting women in conflict zones. They were predominantly in Afghanistan and Iraq, and they just had to sadly pull out of Afghanistan, but it's building community within women. There's not a lot of women in the ultra trail running community, and
Sure.
It's such a freeing, beautiful sport that like I want to encourage more women in that. We are going to do some things with Melt in running, so I'm excited for those like worlds to collide. But for Melt, I really believe that, you know, I want the legacy to be that like we are providing this incredible experience for people, whether that's making a moment, a memory within our business, or that's being a part of that team that makes that experience, but that you take something, that you learn something, you know, and I hope that it's the place that, you know, parents want their 16-year-olds to work at, that they want them to have their first job there because they know that they're cared for and taken care of, and that they learn these valuable skills, and that they learn how to be a community member in a really special way.
That's awesome. I love that. I have one last question.
All right.
Which might turn into more questions, but
no, that's good.
If you have another question,
no, I'm good.
If you could give your younger self some advice, if you could like go back and say, do this, don't do this, or if you could just if you had a bit of advice to give like other young up and coming entrepreneurs, what would it be?
It's always going to be harder than you think it's going to be. So just like enjoy the journey a little bit more, and because it goes fast. And I think, yeah, it's always going to be harder than you think it's going to be. It's always going to be twice as expensive and harder. So like stop and reflect and enjoy it a little bit along the way, and celebrate those small wins.
That is so good. And if you listen to this whole podcast, you got to know that. Like, you know, from the trail running to the starting in ice cream, that's a really good lesson.
Cool.
For sure.
Well, thanks for joining us. This is inspiring and cool, and just, man, what a neat thing that you guys are doing and have built. It has made Fort Worth way more fun.
Yeah.
And I like, just personally for me, I have made so many just memories that I treasure with my girls. My 3-year-old, my 5-year-old, they freaking love Melt. I love Melt, but they love Melt on a way other level. And just, you know, we walk there a lot. The one on Magnolia is close to our house. They also, my 5-year-old has a pink Barbie Jeep, and she was like, can we take the Jeep to Melt? And it's the cutest thing. Those are memories that like I will treasure, and just seeing them, the way they light up with ice cream. I like ice cream. I probably didn't eat ice cream for like 5 or 6 years when I was pre-kids. But now it's like, I love it. It brings joy to our family, and it's a treat. But just, anyways, it has given me memories. I think it's made our city more fun, more vibrant. It really is, I feel like, Fort Worth's spot. I feel like you accomplished that kind of original goal way back in the day of making a truly unique, local, special place. So I'm thankful for you.
Thank you.
Yeah, you guys can follow Kari. Instagram, is that the best place to follow you?
Sure.
Facebook? Is that a thing? Yeah, I'm just
I feel
joking.
like kids aren't on Facebook.
Yeah, that's right. I would say Instagram would be a good one. Yeah, you can follow there. Obviously, check it out on melt.com.
Sure.
Right. Yeah.
Melt ice creams.
Melt ice creams. Shoot. I don't have the notes here, so you got to correct me. Do our outro. Like, follow us. My kids, whenever they do their like fake YouTube videos, they're like, smash that like button, subscribe to.
Yeah, wherever you're at, smash the like
Smash
button.
those like buttons. What do the kids say these days? Subscribe to our thing.
Thanks for listening. If you like
Yeah.
it, share it.
Yeah.
Like it.
Write or review it.
Review it.
Review it.
Yeah, we want you to review
Man,
it.
please
And go
do
buy
it.
some ice cream.
Yep. From Melt.
Buy us some ice cream.
Yeah. Well, buy ice cream for themselves.
Yeah, but if they want to drop us off some ice cream.
That'd be good too. All right. Thank you. We'll see y'all later.
Bye. Congratulations, you made it all the way to the end. Thank you so much for listening to this week's episode of Stories with Soul. If you enjoyed the interview and like what you heard, please help us out and share, subscribe, and like anywhere you listen to podcasts. When you share and subscribe, it is insanely helpful and allows us to keep producing new episodes. You can always join us directly in the studio by watching the video version on our website, 6thAveStorytelling.com. Stories with Soul is brought to you by 6th Ave Storytelling, an organic marketing company building standout brands on the foundation of story. You're obsessed with your business, and we want to make the world obsessed with it too. Thanks for listening.